Hey guys, welcome into another Tuesday night edition of 410 Sports Talk live. I'm James Haskell along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and as always, DK running the show in the background. We got a lot to talk about. There's been a ton of reports out. Look, I'm not gonna lie, just slammed a Chipotle burrito right before the show. In the Chipotle line, was talking about a Ravens fan about how heated he was about the Lamar Jackson not being in the top 50, and then him being 10th in the top 10 quarterbacks. So we're going to get into all that stuff, but we got a really cool comment from one of our commenters, Glenn, that you brought up. So why don't we start there and we'll go from there.
Yeah. One of our frequent and really best commenters, Troy, mentioned in our last video when we talked about how we don't feel the Ravens are being properly rated league wide. And he said it'd be an interesting topic to find out who we feel is the most overrated Raven and who is the most underrated Raven. And it got me thinking, man, that's a tough one to answer, especially the overrated one, because I think we can name out a few underrated guys. Some of our favorite guys we feel are very underrated league wide, but overrated it can get a little dicey because you can't just pick the end of the roster and call them over. So for them to be overrated, they got to be usually highly paid, a highly visible player, and you got to think that he's maybe a little bit higher rated than he should be. So I know you haven't had a ton of time to think about this, Jimbo. I kind of mentioned it to you a little while ago. Mm-hmm. Do you have a spot you'd prefer to start, under or overrated?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll get the hard stuff out of the way first. I hate to say this, but I don't think he's severely overrated. I think that our most overrated player right now might be Calais Campbell. It might be Calais Campbell.
How much it hurts to say. This topic's going to suck.
It does. It definitely hurts to say. And I'm going to throw one other one out there.
Hold on now. If you throw another one out there, you might steal mine. I don't want you stealing my good ones, Fair
enough. So mine right now is Calais, based on, like you said, pay to production. And the hard thing is he still flashes. He had moments last year when he was healthy, but he wasn't relatively healthy, and he's extremely highly, he's paid extremely well. Mm-hmm. And so that's what it's really about for me is pay for production. And so I'm going to have to go with Calais right now as far as being one of the most overrated Ravens. And that can change this year, but as it stands right now, I know, guys, you can blow me up. I know.
I was talking to my brother about that, and I brought up Calais, and he said, I don't think you can put Calais in there because of all that he can do. He can rush the passer. He's obviously really incredible against the run, and also the way he gets his hands up in the passing lanes. It's just he affects the game in many ways. But I agree, he was kind of the first guy that jumped out because of his name, right? He's Calais Campbell. This is one of the
he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. He's one of the premier defensive players of his generation. So to think he's overrated, it's tough. But yeah, I like that answer. I think it's an interesting one. To me, I'm going to switch sides of the ball, and I think this one's going to get a couple people fired up here because I know
where you're going.
Because we got to talk about a player who gets a lot of love, right? If we're going to talk about overrated. So I'm going to go Ronnie Stanley. And here's why I'm going to go Ronnie Stanley.
Wow, I did not see that one.
I'm going to talk about Ronnie Stanley, the Dancing Bear at left tackle. And here's why I'm going to talk about him. Because I am, we're not new fans, Jimbo. We've been fans for a long time. I know with Lamar Jackson coming on, he brought a lot of new fans. But I remember Ronnie Stanley when old Joe Flacco was behind him at quarterback, and I remember the kind of player he was. Now, of course, every player, when you're younger, you progress, you get better, you mature. But Ronnie Stanley, I don't know if you remember, Jimbo, but he was around the 10th to 12th best tackle in the league when Joe was here. I mean, he wasn't anywhere near the all-pro that he had become after Lamar Jackson took over. So I went in and I just want to look at some of the, obviously he had zero accolades up to that point. So I'm trying to find a place to go. Now, we've had a beef with this site as of late. We're not thrilled with PFF, but I don't know where else to turn to get grades as an offensive lineman. I don't know where else to go. So unfortunately, I'm forced to turn to them. And
we got to get McCusick on, man.
I know we got to get Big Ken on to talk about, but specifically with him, he was an average run blocker and a slightly above average pass blocker in 2017. He wasn't anything special in 2017, which of course was the last year Joe Flacco, I think, was fully at the helm. The year before that, he was a poor run blocker. Again, still, he's a pretty good run blocker in 2016. Pass blocker in 2016, but nothing compares to what the jump that he made in Lamar's first full season. He had the single best pass blocking season in left tackle history. So how does a guy who's, 10th to 12th best really in just one season jump to having the single greatest pass blocking season in the history of the league? Allowed 0 sacks, only had 4 penalties, had a better pass blocking season, Jimbo, than Jonathan Ogden ever had. So,
and nobody's taken Ronnie Stanley over J.O. right now, straight up. I mean,
never in life. In life. And also, I did include, when I did these calculations in my head up here, that he's injured, has been injured a decent amount. So I think that goes into it when you consider how much he's paid, the respect he's given.
Certainly went into my equation with Calais. So I think that's fair.
Yeah, and then I think about what Lamar Jackson does for every offensive lineman, but certainly a bookend tackle. The fact that a line or defensive end can't rush like a typical quarterback, you have to rush conservatively. You have to maintain your lanes, and you have to maintain enough balance to jump inside or outside, depending on if Lamar's going to run outside or cut up inside of you. So you can't rush the same. Like nobody, you can't blitz Lamar the same. You can't do anything the same with Lamar back there. And so for that reason, even though it wasn't easy, I had to go with Ronnie Stanley as my offensive most overrated player. So I've won on both sides of the ball for underrated and also overrated. So yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So let me give you my overrated offensive guy. And I think I'm going to get lit up for this one too, but that's okay. I also, and I forgot, I wanted to give a shout out to someone, Jeremiah Maring, for being a first time watcher of our live show. Just shout out. Before I forgot, I wanted to give you a quick shout out there, but
yeah,
this is how I want to explain this one. I feel like he's overrated in that if you compare him to some of his peers in his draft class, it's not fun. Like, he doesn't look good.
Okay.
Especially guys that were taken after him. Now, I know hindsight is 2020, and I'm not saying he doesn't have tons of upside, but I do think he gets a little bit of a pass because he's a first rounder so I feel like there's a little bit of, I don't know. I've always felt this way. I feel like some first rounders don't have the same like the same dog, you know what I'm saying, inside of them when they come in. Not that they didn't have it to get there, but when they come in, they get a little bit full of themselves, maybe, right? So I'm going with Hollywood Brown on this one, only because. So I think he can reach and exceed expectations. I do think he gets a little bit of a pass, and I do think that people give him a little bit too much on his after catch ability. And so I think his game it needs to be rounded out. I don't know how complete it is yet. And I don't know how much of that is just play call and things like that, but I don't know, man. So like I said, you look at AJ Brown taken after him. You look at DK Metcalf taken after him. Like, think if we had
Terry
AJ
McLaurin.
Brown. Yeah. I mean, any, would you take Hollywood over one of those guys right now? The three?
No,
not a chance. Right?
No, I would take AJ Brown. I would take DK Metcalf, and I'd be thrilled about it. And then I would take Terry McLaurin. Yes.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, I know that AJ and DK are physical freaks, but I think that thing about McLaurin that is great that I was hoping that Hollywood had is it seems like to me, now it could be offensive play calls and things like that, but it seems like he's a more complete route runner. He's better at the intermediate stuff. Like I said, it could be just play call stuff, and maybe I'm missing. He needs more opportunities, but certainly it seems like he can do more in the under 20-yard one-on-one stuff.
Yeah, I think that also Hollywood gets a ton of credit for his over-the-top speed, and while we've seen it in spurts, we haven't seen it enough, in my opinion. I haven't seen enough of that separation where he just bolts away and is able to pull away. Especially, Torrey Smith, when Joe would throw that ball, it's like he'd be equal with the defender. And those last 5 yards until the ball got there, he would gain that extra, yard of separation. It always seemed like he had that extra gear right at the end. I need to see a little more of that from, from Hollywood. But so I agree. Point. Yeah, I think it's hard to pick overrated because we love our guys, right?
Yeah.
Like we love our players here. So it's hard to pick who's overrated, on the field. But on the defensive side of the ball, I started on offense. I got to go defense. I got to go Brandon Williams. I
overrated?
Overrated. And let me tell you why. This guy was very, very highly paid. He was very handsomely paid for basically taking 2 blockers. Now, I understand that it's important. I'm not saying that.
And hard to find.
Okay, but he gives you nothing in the pass game. I mean, nothing in the pass game. Absolutely nothing. You have to take him off the field, in fact, in passing situations. Now, he's very highly paid. The fact that you cannot play him on passing downs because that's basically like a void in the middle of that bothers me a little bit. Again, this is not an easy list to construct here, okay? I'm not thrilled about having to call any of our guys overrated. But if I had to pick one guy on defense and call him overrated, I think I got to go with a guy who basically just eats up 2 blockers. I feel like, if he gave you a little more.
The lack of versatility is an issue.
Yeah, the lack of versatility. I mean, all I see is a run stuffing, and I'm not saying it's not important, but he was very, especially when he first earned that deal. Now, of course, multiple guys have made money and pushed him down the ranking as far as highly paid. But when he first signed that deal, Jimbo, he was one of the highest paid interior defensive linemen in the league. And It's not like you're getting an Aaron Donald who gives you both. It's not like you're, there's guys out there that could give you something. Even Tony Saragusa, remember the big fella? He'd get you a few sacks and land with the elbow down on the quarterback.
Yeah, but there's no way you're taking Tony. I mean, right now, if you took him at the same age, you're taking Tony over Brandon Williams? No way.
Tony was a beast.
He was.
I think you're sleeping on Tony a little bit
here.
Come on, man. Don't sleep on my man, Big Tone.
Now, if you're telling me Kelly Gregg, I might take Kelly Gregg.
Kelly Gregg's another good scrapper inside. Yeah, absolutely.
But I totally get it. It's just like you said, it's really tough because Brandon Williams, I just watched the other day. There were some clips of him and somebody just mentioned, good luck trying to block Brandon Williams one-on-one. And he was just, it was embarrassing, right? He was moving centers and guards as if they were children. Like there's no other way to explain it.
Yeah.
And so knowing that you have to give him 2 every single play obviously has its value. That's why he got paid. But man, what strikes me is when, of course, there was the scuffle between him and Earl Thomas.
Yeah.
And because Earl knew that they needed him on the field. And we know Earl Thomas didn't even want to be a Raven. Like, let's be honest. He just came here for the money. He said it. I'm not assuming things. He said he was going to Kansas City. And not Baltimore, but we gave him the bag. But anyway, so I can get with that one. I can. Remember,
Broderick Washington was playing pretty well at the end of the year. Not to say he's that, but I'm saying he looks like he's the one they're hoping can develop into that replacement. And I don't know. It's just hard because who else do you look at on defense? Like I looked at Chuck Clark, but Chuck Clark I don't think is highly rated by many other than our own coaching staff. Who else rates him highly? So who else could you even say?
Some people will say Marcus Peters because he gets beat. But it's unfair to do that because Marcus Peters is lapping the field and turnovers and even pass breakups in the time he's been in the league. So you can't. It's not a complete argument. Just say, well, he gets beat. Yeah, well, he wins a lot too.
Yeah, and he's left on an island. Every corner who's left on an island is going to get beat eventually, unless they're playing against a bum on the opposite side. So, I don't know. Look. Who else could you point to? There's not too many places you could go. I thought about Patrick Queen because I thought that he had an up and down season and he ended up, I think, 3rd in defensive rookie of the year, which, but then you look at it, he's in there so much. He played so many snaps as a rookie. He made so many tackles. He was a versatile player as far as getting sacks and I don't know. It was tough for me to pick a guy, but that's who I went with defensively.
No, I hear you. And then, of course, Tone the Virgo says a Ravens win against the Chiefs would put a great ending to my B-Day weekend. Well, Glenn and I will be there. barring an early pregnancy for my wife.
Yes.
But certainly, all indications are that it is a go. So if you're there, Tone, make sure to come see us. We're going to be tailgating with our guy Tony. As you guys know, we're really excited to get down there. So make sure you guys get down there. But Glenn, I want to switch gears here for a second before we get to PFF, because I just came across this picture on Twitter, and this is what I want to talk about next. And this would be potential free agent acquisitions. I just want to spend some time on it because there's been some new reporting, at least on one of these guys that we talked about. Just look at this image for a second and tell me you want this guy hunting you down if you're a quarterback. Yeah, I don't want anything to do with that, man.
Those two would look awesome in purple. Yeah. And right now, the expectation is that both will eventually sign. Now, I don't know the reliability of those sources. It seems to be some, NFL updates or NFL this. But, man, those two would be awesome looking in purple. And if they can get them at the right price, I don't see why, any Ravens fan wouldn't be thrilled to have them.
Yeah, I got a really good I'm with you, but I got to tell a little bit of a story really quick. I got a really good friend who is his whole family, they're just built like brick houses. I mean, just out the womb. It's stupid, right? And 3-time All-State football player in Utah, really, really great player. Could have played college ball, but decided to do something with his career instead. Didn't think he'd make the pros. Anyway, he wants to be a medevac, like an emergency medevac practitioner. So like a doctor or a nurse or a paramedic who's on a helicopter, right? So he has to stop. He has to really slow down his weightlifting because he puts on weight too easy, right? And I told him, dude, I don't know. And then he's got a mohawk and a beard, right? He's got like the Eric Weddle look. Eric Weddle's a favorite football player. I said, dude, I don't know who's going to be on drugs when you walk in the room on morphine, but if you walked in and I was on morphine, I would be so terrified. And like, that's exactly like, man, if Justin Houston walked in the room and I'm on a little bit of morphine, I might be like, man, I want a different doctor. This guy's like, geez, whiz, man. I tell you what, boy, I hope he becomes a Raven because
just the intimidation factor. Is that?
Well, yeah, that. And then, but really we all know he's a great guy. Like everybody knows that. I think he wasn't in the running for man of the year and things like that. And yeah, great guy in the community and things, but certainly on the football field, coming off the bus, you're going to look good.
Yeah, I want him leading the team off the bus. Absolutely.
Yeah, him, Calais, Derek, Brandon even.
Yep, all the big fellas. Alejandro, let's get Al out there.
Let's get Alejandro.
Let's get Ben Cleveland out there. Just
man, that is a lot of power right there. My goodness gracious. But anyway, so where are you at right now with, like you said, the expectation is a lot of people are saying that, okay, so as far as like, likelihood, the Ravens have the highest likelihood of landing Justin Houston still, and Todd Gurley have the best odds. That's what I was looking for. Where I don't know how I feel about that. Do you agree with that or do you disagree with that?
Right now, that's that's kind of how I'm operating. If those two will, well, here's the thing. I'm certainly more hopeful that Justin Houston comes and not
more of a necessity.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I think that Todd Gurley is more like the cherry on top. He's like the insurance policy in case, like the Ingram injury that bit us in 2019 and forced him out of. I mean, he played a little bit, but he wasn't at all productive. And really, it was odd that the coaches, especially now in hindsight, that they've paid Gus Edwards, they didn't really seem confident to feed him the ball a lot in that 2019 playoff loss to Tennessee, which kind of had us both shaking our heads.
Yeah, it was weird, right?
Yeah, super strange. And now when you have a 17-game season, you think, man, if we have an injury like similar at the end of the season, man, it sure would be nice to have a guy like Todd Gurley who's now had a full training camp and full season to learn the playbook, get himself ready, and hopefully he's healthy at that point because his workload will be very minimal. And it would be awesome to have a 3-down back. I mean, this is a guy who's done it in every way. He's ran between the tackles. He can run the stretch outside. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. This is a guy who's had like 60-some catches in a single season. I mean, he's a do-it-all type back. Now, we understand about the knees, but he's only 26 years old. And so it's not like we're talking about a 30-year-old running back. We're talking about a 26-year-old guy. I think will be 27 when the season starts, but still not that old of a guy. And if they can – and what I hear, I think, Jimmy, you mentioned, his knees are more of a pain tolerance and not necessarily –
It's not a performance thing where he'll lack explosion or anything like that. Like you said, yeah, it's a pain tolerance. It's really up to him on what type of quality of life he wants to live moving forward. Because it's a chronic thing. It's something that he can certainly. Yeah, there's no need for him to have less explosion, to be less elusive, to be less fast. At least for what they're citing, because they're not talking about the ACLs that he had in the past. They're talking about his arthritis, and that's really, coming down to pain tolerance. And I get it. I mean, I can't blame him for it, right?
Yeah.
I could tell him to change what he's eating, but that's about all I can tell him.
There we go.
But
plant life, right?
That's right, man. But certainly, yeah. But so I would be just as excited as you, in that. There's a lot more meat on the bone than I think that some people realize. You think of Todd Gurley, you think age, and you think, banged up, missed a lot of games. He's not that old, and he hasn't missed a lot of games.
No, he hasn't 8 games in his career.
Right. And I understand that things went south and he didn't look great, but I've said it before. Like, we know how to resurrect guys, and there's no better place for him than to come to the best rushing team of all time.
Yeah.
But Bill Seals says that if he becomes a Raven, he instantly becomes the Ravens' most overrated player. Fair?
Well, yeah, that's fair because of what he's done in the past. This is a guy who was once the number 1 fantasy pick in a lot of drafts. I mean, this is a guy who's fallen a long way since then in a sense that now he's going to be the third back on a team. That sounds, of course, a third back on a Ravens team is like the number 2 on some teams.
Right.
Especially if you look at like the Tennessee Titans, man, I guarantee if Todd Gurley signs here, he has more carries than the number 2 back behind Derrick Henry does, because they run that workhorse, and they whatever scraps are left over are picked up by the backup. So I think that he would be overrated because of his name, I guess, but it's not like he's going to be getting many accolades when he's here. This is just living off of his past name. This is a former offensive player of the year, if I'm not mistaken. And
yeah,
one of the very best and premier backs in his time. And it's crazy to think that he's past his prime and past his time when he's just now at 26. Like, isn't that when you're supposed to be hitting your physical peak as a man at 26 years old? Is what I hear.
Yeah, I don't know.
How do you feel? You're 30.
I feel I've made some changes in my life, so I feel like I'm 21 again, baby.
Man, I feel like I'm 55.
I'm turning the clock back, Benjamin Button over here. No, I'm kidding. But in all honesty, yeah, I think it would be a sneaky nice pickup for the Ravens. Obviously, if the price is right, which we assume if he's coming here, it would be for a discount, because it's in it. The way Gurley's got to look at this. If I'm his agent, I'm saying, look, you're investing in yourself this year. You're only 26. Let's go out there, find a team where we can prove it, that we can still get it, and then let's go out there and get you $5 million per year deal somewhere.
Absolutely. And why not? I mean, look, people say that he's done, right? He played in 15 of the 16 games last year. He had 9 touchdowns on the ground just last season, So, and the year before that, he had 12 on the ground, 2 through the air, and again, played in 15 of the 16 games. So I get that his yards per carry has been dropping pretty much every year, and that is worrisome. But he played on Atlanta last year. I mean, so it's a big difference in playing, behind that Ravens offensive line in that Ravens system with Lamar Jackson handing you the ball or maybe not handing you the ball, and that's the worry that the defense is going to have to worry about. But also, I love the fact that he can, imagine if he's your third down back. JK's out 6 weeks. You got Gus as your ground and pound guy, and you got him as now your third down back, and not Justice Hill, who has shown us absolutely nothing as an offensive player. His best game, he had 11 carries for 30 yards and 1 touchdown, and that's against the Pittsburgh Steelers, a game that everybody points to as his breakout game. Well, if you really look at the numbers, his breakout game was not very impressive. It was, it was quite mediocre at very best. I think his career long of a run is like, it's not even 20 yards. So, I mean, this isn't a guy that I want to rely on for any amount of time. I mean, I want him in there at the end of a blowout at the most. That's it. I don't want to rely on him to pick up a big first down, to make a big catch. None of that. I'd rather deal with the arthritic knees of Todd Gurley.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the only thing I'll say is that I don't think arthritis is undefeated. I don't. The the one of the best, most competitive Ironmen in the world is 55 years old, and he kicks people's trash that are half his age. And certainly at that age and that mileage, trust me, he's got plenty of arthritis in them bad boys. But so it can certainly be managed. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I hope that you're right in that I'm less confident that we get them both done. But like, I think you said that at kind of the outset, that if we get one of them done, obviously it would be Justin Houston is much more pressing. But yeah, so let's move on to the next one here. And I want to talk about this, Glenn, and that is that the Ravens, according to Bucky Brooks, Bucky Brooks has rated the top 5 quarterback head coach duos under pressure in the NFL. And he ranked the Ravens John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson number 2. So I'm just going to run through the list real quick. So the Ravens are 2. I'm going to run through the list, and then we'll talk about whether we agree, disagree, and if there's any teams that are left off, because I think it's important. I think the number 1 is a sneaky good one, and that's Matt Stafford and Sean McVay, the highest pressure in the league. Then Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. Then the Indianapolis Colts with Carson Wentz and Frank Reich. And then the Las Vegas Raiders with Derek Carr, John Gruden. And the Chicago Bears rounding out the bottom with Andy Dalton / Justin Fields and Matt Nagy. Yeah. So the Ravens are number 2. Let's start there, Glenn. How do you feel about the Ravens being at number 2?
I think it's fair.
Or the coaching and John. You know what I mean?
I think that I know some people would disagree with me, but I do think there's pressure on both of them to win. I mean, I think that anytime you're that close, there's pressure. So I think you look around the league, are you expected to? I think that's the question. Are you expected to do well? I think most people expect the Ravens to do well. I think that anytime you have high expectations, that means a little bit more pressure, right? But that's good pressure. You want people. I mean, I think that there's a lot of Ravens fans that are of the mindset of they prefer the Ravens be the underdog and surprise people rather than be the guy everyone's chasing or the team everyone's chasing. And I agree with that, but it's also cool to be the team that everyone's chasing and still get there. I mean, I think that's what is part of what made Tom Brady so incredible, is that everyone wanted to beat the New England Patriots, and they just could not do it. Same with Michael Jordan, same with all the greats. They all came for him, and they just all got knocked away. So I think that the fact that they're on that list is a good thing in the sense that they're expected to win. They're expected to do well. They got some big hurdles they got to get over, in the AFC, certainly the Chiefs being the biggest. So I agree with them. I think there is pressure for them to win. I don't think that pressure – now, this is the part that I don't agree. I don't think that pressure, like if there's another earlier exit in the playoffs, if there's maybe a one and done in the playoff, I don't think that either. Like, I don't think Lamar Jackson's contract, if it's not signed at that point, is in jeopardy. And I don't think John's job is in jeopardy at that point. But I do think there's still pressure for them both to get it done and get a little further in the playoffs and maybe just get over that. Even if a regular season win, I think will do something. If they can beat the Chiefs in week 2. That'll do something with knocking off the pressure. So I'm okay with it. I'm a little bit more upset with some of the other names on that list because, like I said, expectations are the number one thing for me, and I'm not sure how much I expect from the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to bring up, right? It's – I don't know. This one's interesting to me because – I think it's good pressure. I think it's kind of what you were saying in that the expectations are there. So when there are expectations, there is pressure involved. I don't know though. I mean, I feel like John's pretty secure in his spot, and so is Lamar. Like at the end of the day, even if this thing comes off the rails this year, I don't think they're out of a job next year here in Baltimore.
Right.
I don't think that we operate that way. As an organization. So now the one thing I'll say about the list as well is I honestly think that, I mean, I like number 1, but number 3 to me with Wentz and Wright, like they gave up some stuff for Wentz. I think they gave up a conditional first, like it was a second round conditional first who plays like 75%. But the thing is that they have I guess Jacoby Brissett is their contingency plan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't really think they have much of a contingency plan there, and neither do the Rams, I guess, either. But
most teams don't.
But certainly, there's a lot of pressure there because I can imagine beating on the table saying, "Look, this is what we did in 2017. We're gonna do something like this again."
Mm-hmm.
And they're a complete team. How long have they been a quarterback away?
Oh yeah, they got one of the most complete rosters. There's no doubt about it, especially when you consider what they did on the ground last year. That run game can do a lot to help out a quarterback, and they got some pretty good weapons. But the thing so the reason I think they have pressure is just to resurrect Carson Wentz in his career. I don't think there's much pressure on Frank Reich as the head coach because, to me, I mean, last year was an overachievement. The fact that they did what they did with Phillip Rivers, who a lot of people thought was done, they got pretty far. They won a lot of football games. They won some big games.
But do you think that he's hitched his wagon to Carson Wentz now? Like if he's gone in and stuck his neck out, at what point, if they make a mistake, they realize it's bad with Carson and they start to offload him, they're like, look, we're going to start over from scratch.
I don't think that's quite as bad a look because it's not like they committed the draft capital like the Rams did.
Yeah, that's true.
McVay gave up a ton. So I think he's rightfully so number one on this list. I don't think that they've given up enough when you consider what they had. They had Jacoby Brissett. That's not a quarterback that you think can lead you to a championship. So they needed to do something, and they weren't picking high enough to get any of the first round quarterbacks. So what choice did they have other than banking on their past relationship between the quarterback and the coach, and banking on the fact that just a few years ago this guy was leading the MVP vote before his injury. So I think he has the talent. So they're banking on the talent and the relationship. But I think the vast majority of that pressure that Bucky Brooks is talking about is on Carson Wentz and the resurrection of his own career. And I think Frank Reich is just fine. But, when you talk about the Raiders, I guess the pressure I see from them is that they're opening that stadium and that there's going to be fans in Vegas, and you're hoping to build a fan base in a place that is a lot of tourists. I mean, I know that they have a pretty good amount of, and you could speak to it more than me.
Yeah, it's a blip of a city.
Exactly.
It's a blip.
So how do you fill a stadium every week unless you're winning? So I think that's the pressure: is how do you fill this stadium? How do you justify bringing that team to Vegas and filling this this incredible stadium that's got all these people? How do you fill it if you have a loser? And that's the pressure. But there's not a lot of expectation. I mean, if you go around the league and you ask them to pick where they think the Raiders will finish, I don't think you'll find a single analyst that's going to predict them to even make the playoffs. I mean, so how can there be a ton of pressure other than just the fact that they got to fill that stadium?
Well, and then on top of that, isn't Gruden, pretty much guaranteed his next however many years he's got on that deal?
Oh, yeah, he's got a 10-year deal.
Right. So, and then, Vegas is a weird place to have a football team because there's a lot of people, a lot of money, but there's also, I don't think there's a real thriving middle class. I could be wrong, but it's usually you work at a casino or you own a casino.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, there's not really too much between that, right? So
the strip clubs.
Yeah. So you either own the strip club or you work at the strip club, right? Like, you know what I mean? So it's definitely going to be interesting. I can see what you're saying from a success of the franchise standpoint.
Yeah.
They've certainly got to make that
and
work.
They don't know of having a lot of money too. Remember that owner's always been accused of being strapped for cash.
Yeah, that's true. But now what about this? Are you surprised that Belichick and Newton Cam aren't on here? What's his name? Dad bod. What's his name?
Mac Jones.
Right. Are you surprised? Yeah. Are you surprised that they're not on this list? Because all the money they spent in the offseason, you don't think there's a little bit of pressure on them? And Tom's coming back to Gillette this year?
That's a good point. I didn't think originally, but now you did bring up a good point. They have a ton of guys. Not only did they spend the most money in free agency by far, they also have a ton of guys coming back from COVID.
Yeah.
That, key contributors, especially on the defensive side, that are going to be returning. I think that, and there's definitely some pressure on Cam to show that he still belongs in the league. And not only that he still belongs as a starter in this league, I should say. I think there's no doubt he belongs somewhere in the league, but does Cam strike you as the kind of guy who's fine being a backup?
I think after that, he's done. If he ain't starting anymore, I think he's done. He's got a lot of stuff going on off the field. I think he'd just hang him up.
Exactly. So I think that there's pressure on him. As far as Bill, outside of me, everyone else just puts him right to the top of Mount Rushmore. So I don't think there's a ton on Bill.
But even if he is on Mount Rushmore, don't you think that? So if things go bad this year, right? And then they're like, look, we want to bring our gosh, man, I'm doing a terrible job on names tonight. The OC that's been there forever that bounced to Denver and then came back.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, McDaniels. Yeah. So if how long is McDaniels going to sit around and wait for Bill to give up the job? You know what I mean? When does it become like, hey, Bill, look, you haven't been drafting well. You haven't been making good decisions in free agency. You've had the keys to the car and it's not working.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose McDaniels. So if you hang around, we lose him. It's either promote him or lose you.
Well, I don't think Kraft would ever make the decision to let him. Now, I do think that there's a possibility, and they probably should tone back his responsibilities. They could wrap it in this. Yeah, they could wrap it up and say, look, you're getting a little older. We want to take some of this load off of you. And, being a GM is a lot of extra work, because I agree with you. I don't think he's a very good GM at all. I mean, if you just look at his track record in draft picks, he hasn't drafted a Pro Bowler since like 2013. So it's hard to really, argue that he's a good, drafter of talent. But so, yeah, I guess there's some, when you've been that good, there's some expectation. But at this point in his career, he's only a year or two away. And I think Josh McDaniels has already had that you're the coach in waiting discussion, because he would have been gone, I think, a long time ago. And there's the only reason he'd be staying around is if he's had some type of assurances or guarantees. But who was number 5 on that list? Do you still have it?
It was the Bears. It was, and I don't think they have any. I think Nagy has pressure, but I think it's all about Nagy's pressure. Yeah. But one last thing before we move on from that, I also think another one that Taja Bowman brought up mentioned Jerry Jones. He was not the head coach.
That's a really good one. But
Dak Prescott and McCarthy
McCarthy.
Yeah. So I think that they have a lot. I mean, Dak's got a huge deal. And they have done nothing in the playoffs my entire childhood. I mean, my entire life. Like, not just my, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I can't remember them being anything but mediocre.
Right. I mean, they haven't been relevant since we've been, old enough to really understand the game. They have not been relevant, and they just paid him a ton of money. They paid a quarterback who, man, I feel like I've been kind of rough on Dak lately because of that PFF list that had him in the top 50, not Lamar Jackson. It just grinds my gears. It makes me crazy, and it makes me say bad things about Dak Prescott. And I don't have anything personal against him, but he's no Lamar Jackson. I mean,
what did you say their best years were? Lamar was 36-6 in touchdowns to interceptions, and Dak in his best year was 30-11.
Yeah, something like 30-11, and that's his clear cut best year. His best touchdown year before, I think it was like 24 or 25, and then he had like a 23 year, if I remember off the top of my head. But all he's got, I mean, the yards is great, but we all know that a quarterback makes his money in two areas: third down and red zone. That's where they make their most money, because they get the ball. It's can you get the ball in the end zone when the field shrinks? Can you do it? And Lamar's shown that he can do it. And, to only have 30 touchdowns on a year of which you throw for 5,000 yards, that to me is not that impressive. I mean, I'm sorry, especially when you consider he might have the best receiving core in all of all of football with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Gallup. I mean, that 3-man punch right there is incredible. And then
I think the only ones that are better would be the Buccaneers.
Right. Yeah, there's a few that you could, but they're certainly in the discussion. There's no doubt about it.
Clearly in the discussion.
I'm not sure, and everybody's so high on Dak, and I get it because it's a cool story. He's coming back from that horrendous injury, but I just don't understand. And also, like Brandon Thompson said, Dak was also, I think, number 5 or 6 on the top 10 list, and Lamar barely cracked the list at 10. Why?
Yeah, let's go right to that list.
That list had me fired up. Why is he number 5? He's, first of all, team success, not even close. Not even close to compare as far as the wins. Individual success, talking unanimous MVP and all-pro quarterback. What has Dak done to even compare to that? Other than, they say he led the league in passing yards. Okay. What does it matter what you do between the 20s? If you don't punch it in the end zone, what does it matter? It's pointless. It's absolute nonsense. It's like having the best handles in basketball, but you can't put the ball in the hoop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can dribble all up the court and shake a bunch of people, drop a couple people, and then when you pull up, you boof it. I mean, I don't understand why they put such value in passing yards and don't put value in first downs and touchdowns, which is what Lamar does better than anyone. Is that first? I mean, I don't understand it. It makes me absolutely crazy. And the fact that, Jimbo, Baker Mayfield was rated higher than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, we need to get to this. Oh, geez. This is only the top 5. Hold on. Gosh dang it. Where's the other ones? Here we go. Here's the other ones.
Makes me absolutely sick. I mean, he just continues to get absolutely disrespected. Yeah, Kirk Cousins. Yes, Brandon. Yes, Kirk Cousins. Now, I like the one thing I'll say about Kirk Cousins, model of consistency. If you look at his year after year numbers, you talk about just consistent, what he does.
Consistent empty calories, baby, right?
Yeah, like every year looks the same. It's just wild to me, but definitely not Lamar Jackson. It's absolute nonsense.
Okay, so here we go. I mean, this, like you said, yeah, this is pretty crazy to me. Dak 6, Matt Ryan 7, Kirk Cousins 8, half dozen Mayfield number 9, and Lamar Jackson number 10. So
stop. Ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely insane here. There's no reason why Lamar Jackson at the lowest isn't number 6.
At the very lowest. And
there's not a single GM on earth that, I think Lamar Jackson's over Josh Allen, but the GMs might be split half and half, right? But there isn't a GM on earth that is taking Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, or Baker Mayfield over Lamar Jackson. Now, there might be some dumb ones that take Dak Prescott, but let me tell you what, I don't think Jerry Jones would take Dak Prescott over Lamar Jackson if he had to. I think he'd take Lamar Jackson and laugh all the way to the bank. Yes. So yeah, this is a crazy one to me. I don't even know what to think anymore. Like, at what point?
I mean, are you just happy he made the list? Because honestly, I wouldn't have been shocked to see him left off the list by the disrespect we've seen in this offseason.
Yeah, I guess, but like, I feel like PFF, I think they're just trolling now.
It's got to be something, but why did they choose the Baltimore Ravens flock to troll? Why us?
Maybe because Lamar Jackson is the hardest player ever to analyze. He is and he isn't, right? Like, because just look at things holistically. I mean, it's not even, the production is just insane. But the reason I think they're trolling is because they put Baker ahead of him, right in front of him.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
But at least Baker has some like specific areas you could look at. Like, because over the stretch, he had like a crazy quarterback rating over that stretch. Like, he had the rookie passing touchdown record. He's got some things that Lamar can't say he's got. But Dak Prescott, he has the yards. That's it. He has a worse rating. He has a worse touchdown percentage, a higher turnover percentage, he
has a worse record in the playoffs.
I don't understand. Like, the only thing he has is the empty calorie yards, which we all know mean absolute. I mean, bad quarterbacks and bad teams put up high yards. They just can't get in the freaking end zone. So it's just, I don't understand how they're coming up with this. And then Baker Mayfield, you want to talk about a benefit? You know, we talk about how Pat Mahomes is benefited by, having, the number 3 overall rated player in Travis Kelce, has, one of the top receivers, has one of the, if not the top play caller and offensive designer in Andy Reid. He's got a lot of things going for him. But Baker Mayfield, they just rated the Browns as the most complete roster from top to bottom. He has benefited.
Look at his run game alone.
Yeah, he's got 2 top 10 running backs in his backfield. Just there. Then you talk about a top 5 receiving core. Then you got one of the best, if not the best, tight end rooms. When you talk about top to bottom with those 3 guys that they got, maybe the best offensive line in all football. I think if I had to vote, I think I'd probably vote them as the best offensive line. I mean, they got an incredible front now. When you talk about what they did on defense, adding that linebacker from Notre Dame to really seal up their main weakness, they bring in Clowney. They bring in the slot corner and the safety from the Rams, who were the top at their positions last year. They have got a monster roster filled with first-round picks because they stunk. I love how Wink points that out. They had a lot of losing to build this team. A lot of losing to build a team this damn good. So you don't think Baker has benefited from having an absolute monster? You cannot point to a hole on their team. You can't do it. On paper, you
except
cannot
that
point
quarterback.
to a hole. Well, not according to PFF. He's number 9.
Yeah. No, and the other thing on top of that, if you just go back, it's funny because the way that each player is criticized is so different. So if you go back to the year they went 8-8, and I predicted they would be best 8-8, right?
Yeah.
You go back to that year. Do you remember what all the excuses were for Baker? The offensive line was terrible. He's seeing ghosts. They got to pick up
the head coach.
Right. And then last year, Lamar Jackson lost an all-pro left tackle and a Hall of Fame right guard and had a rotating guy at center.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamar Jackson had COVID.
Mm-hmm.
The whole team dang near had COVID. He went 11-5.
Yep.
It's stupid. He had 1,000+ rushing yards. He had a career year for 31 quarterbacks in the NFL. If you count up, if you actually include his rushing yards instead of saying, oh, it's a footnote.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, he led the league in yards per carry.
Yep. He's one of only 3 runners of the football that have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I mean, this isn't something that it should be taken for granted. You shouldn't just overlook what he does as far as just stress and strain on the defense. It's making me absolutely crazy. And what's making me more crazy is we can't get a member of PFF, a representative, to come on our show. Man. They're ducking us. They're punking. That wasn't me who wrote that. Remember that guy?
Yeah, shut your mouth.
I didn't write that article. Try and hit up this guy who actually wrote it, and then he ignores us. A bunch of chumps over there ducking our phone call, ducking our messages. Stand by your product and defend it.
Yeah. Come on, man.
This is why I can only trust their grades, because all these articles are just individuals who made these articles.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to think, can we at least like go to them and look at their grade? Can we at least trust that and not their opinions? Because that's what I liked about PFF is that they were taking the opinion out of it. Now it seems like they're not only inserting the opinion in, now they're inserting some trolling into it as well.
And they're trying to be the smartest kid on the block. It makes me think of Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
Where, like, dude, you're not always the smartest person in the room. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just turn on the tape, sit your butt down on the couch, get some popcorn, watch Lamar Jackson, and watch Baker Mayfield. And you tell me that Baker Mayfield's better. I mean, your teeth will fall out from lying. Right? Yes. Like, I mean, goodness gracious. Yeah, you tell me that Kirk Cousins is better than Lamar Jackson. Matt Ryan at this point in his career is better than Lamar Jackson. I would even say at his peak, he's not better than Lamar Jackson. But goodness, great. Even, of course, just like you said, Dak, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I don't know what else to say. Bothers me.
Yeah, especially, and I love how just the year before when he was left off this year's top 50. The year before, he was the number 1 player. Voted by the players, NFL 100. He was the number 1 guy. And then just a year later, and they even said, we're not judging this off of a bad year, which, by the way, he didn't have a bad year. He had a less productive year than his previous year. But to say he had a bad year would be just nonsense. And they go, oh, we're not, judging off that. We're only stop it. Stop the nonsense. Quit the bullshit. I'm tired of it. I'm absolutely tired of it. But Jimbo, I wanted to switch gears a little bit.
All right.
I want to talk about underrated players because we talked overrated.
Shoot. Did we skip underrated?
We didn't talk underrated. Geez. So I want to talk underrated on the offense and underrated on the defense. A player in which doesn't get much love from the national media or may not even be known by opposing teams' fans. Who do you have? You can start offense or defense.
Well, by giving me those parameters, you. So my answer, before you just said that, honestly, based on recent reports, is Lamar Jackson, as stupid as that sounds. Because locally, we appreciate Lamar Jackson. But there are still people, I tell you what, there are still people that are casual fans that are saying, oh, he's got to get that throwing thing down. And somebody said it to me the other day. I had a plate of hot food in my hand, and I almost scarred them in the face. I was this close to just, because you said it before. What else can you do other than lead the league in touchdowns and touchdowns from the pocket? What else can you do?
Like, oh, that was 1 year. Okay.
It's like, how many other guys have done that ever? And
he's played 3 years.
Right. It's ridiculous. So, but I guess to not take Lamar Jackson as the easy one, even though he just got paid outside of the Ravens here locally, it absolutely has to be Gus Edwards. I think it's funny because when people I've heard them do report, like the opposing team's pressers, they'll say, Gus is a guy that's given a number but not a name by the opposing team, and it makes me laugh. They're like, oh yeah, back in the day, they got Ingram in the backfield, they got Lamar in the backfield, and they got 35. And it's like, can you say the guy's name?
Right.
Like, he only owns a multitude of records as far as running back efficiency goes. I think he deserves a name.
Yep.
So, sir, I'm going with Gus Edwards offensively. I'll let you give your offensive one, and then I'll give my defensive one.
Yeah, offensively, somebody's already jumped on it, and it's Adam78 is correct. I think it's Nick Boyle. I think Nick Boyle is a guy that I bet if you polled NFL fans across the league, they probably wouldn't know who the hell Nick Boyle is. But, of course, in Baltimore, we understand all that he brings. I mean, I think we believe he's the best blocking tight end in football. I think he's a guy that is darn near as close to being a tackle-worthy blocker as you can have at the tight end position. This guy is darn near good enough to stand in there and be a right tackle. I mean, I think if you asked him to eat a couple more burritos a day, he could do it if that was, what the team needed. I love his mentality. I love the fact that he can, block it so many different ways. He can block, a big D end, and he can block a safety, and he can block a corner. He can just block any different guy you need. He can cut you. He can pancake you, and also, when all that is said and done, he's also got some pretty damn good hands. Not the most fleet of foot, not a guy who can, shake a guy and get open, but he can when you leave him, open, that guy can catch the ball, and he's a horse to bring down. I mean, he'll jump over you, he'll run through you, and he absolutely licks his chops when he sees a cornerback trying to size him up in the flat and try and take him down. They are absolutely terrified, which is why he gets away with jumping over you, because they know the only way to bring that big caveman down is to cut him at his ankles and cut that tree down at its base. Because if they try and go high, it's a long trip, and it's usually going to end up in a stiff arm or a shoulder to the chest. So I like Nick Boyle. I'm a big Nick Boyle guy. I'm so glad he got over those early season struggles where he had the suspension issues, he had the injury issues. And I'll know he's coming off an injury now, but I expect him to be right back to where he was in his old form and smashing linemen and linebackers across the league.
Yeah, I like that one as well. Like, people forget, he ran really odd, but he ran the slowest 40 in his tight end class, had the fastest 4-cone drill. And I think that comes in hand, when you're talking about being in a small space and having to block guys, like you said, I think it would only take a few trips to Chipotle a week to really, he could be a full-time tackle, certainly. So, I think that's a great one offensively. Defensively, see, I don't want to say two because you might have taken, you might have one of them.
I got two of them. So you can say anyone.
I was going to say Jimmy Smith.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good one. But you know what? I'm going to go with the Joker on this one. I think that Deshaun Elliott is really underappreciated nationally for his potential as a playmaker with the ball in the air. I think teams see him as like a bridge gap type guy, but I think he has potential with his instincts in the run game, his physicality, as long as he can stay healthy and show his ability to make plays on the ball when it's in the air. When, just like he did in Texas, I think he has potential to be like a Pro Bowl type guy. And to be able to do something like that, considering the lack of airtime that he gets. I mean, the only highlight people see of him is the smash on Derrick Henry, but he had he had a decent amount of highlights. I think he played really well last year. So I'm going to say Deshaun Elliott, the Joker.
Okay. I like that. I think there's a couple guys on defense you go with. I think I saw, let me actually see if I can give him credit. I saw that, where is it? I'm missing it. I wanted to give you credit. Whoever mentioned Anthony Averett, I think is a good one. I think he's a guy who could be playing his last year in Baltimore because he's gonna price himself out, and we already have paid too many corners. I think that LJ Fort's another really good one that could be brought up here. And a guy that does a lot to help stabilize that middle linebacker position when everyone else there is very, very young with Board and Queen and Malik Harrison. But to me, I'm going to go with Tyus Bowser. I think he's underrated across the league. I think because of the fact that he doesn't have a ton of sack numbers, but the amount of stuff he does, I think he really showed up in the run game last year, used that sideline to sideline speed and was able to, erase guys. But his job in coverage, he gets dropped so much more than the average linebacker. It's unreal. He's He's a premier cover linebacker, a guy that had a pick in 3 straight games. I think that if he can step up and do a little bit more as far as sack totals this year, he's going to start becoming more and more well known. But I think there's a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball you could have pointed to. But so for me, I'm going to go with Tyus Bowser only because I think that his lack of sacks gets him often overlooked by everyone else, except for obviously the coaching staff and front office, considering they gave him a pretty handsome contract. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good one as well. He wasn't top of mind for me. But yeah, absolutely. Because his production isn't traditional at his position, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly right. Yep.
All right, Cam Wee, let's see what you got here. It's hard to take shots at a quarterback as humble as Lamar Jackson. PFF is looking for every way to take a shot at LJ. It'll lead to another MVP season. PFF is a POS. Like it. I can't disagree with you on their opinion-based articles because they are obviously not statistically and analytically based. I was thinking about this the other day too when it comes to PFF. Who in the NFL leads? Who's on the cutting edge of analytics? The Baltimore Ravens.
The Ravens are number 1 in the league, yeah.
Yeah, and who didn't have a concern taking Lamar Jackson? The Baltimore Ravens. Right, and then
built
not
their
only
whole
that,
team around them.
Right, exactly. So with that being said, if PFF wants to show themselves as the king of the analytics game, there's a serious disconnect between them and the Ravens as far as analytics go. And I'm going to put my money on the Ravens analytics staff and not on PFF and their analytics staff.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, look at the win totals and look at what it was before he got here. But I think it's easier for team because I want to put the comment back up because he says it's hard to take shots at a quarterback is humble. I think you're right if you like him, but I think it's easier to take shots at a guy because he doesn't feed into it. He doesn't respond. He's not making a burner account and coming after you. He just brushes it off. And I think it's easier to take shots at Lamar because he's different. He's the unicorn in the group. He's the guy who's doing it different than everyone else. So I do think he's the low hanging fruit. It's the easy one to go after. It's BS, but they go after him because, well, he's doing it differently. And he's like you said, a humble guy. He's not going to get into those he's not going to get into a media war with anyone. He's whatever, he just doesn't even care. He's going to keep doing his thing. But I do agree. It's absolute bull crap. It's ridiculous. It's silly. It's silly. The guy's a humble superstar. He's a guy that every parent should be looking at their kid and hoping that he turns out like Lamar Jackson. That's my opinion.
I might be showing that I'm really in my 30s right now, Glenn, but there's a song by a famous rapper in our day, and he says in that song, let them hate and watch the money pile up, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Lamar Jackson's going to get paid stupid amounts of money, and he is insanely productive. But even though he switched the style up, it doesn't matter, right? He's going to be laughing all the way to the bank. But you're absolutely right in that he's an easy target because you're not going to hear anything back in the media. He's not going to pull Baker Mayfield and get back at you and confront you or anything. He's going to go out there and play ball. Like, that's just what he's going to do, so it's easy to say stuff. But we'll speak for Lamar Jackson. Not that he needs to be spoken for, but we'll do the dirty work, Lamar. Don't worry. That's what you got us for. We're the best in the business. Where's Goings, right?
That's right. We're gonna go after you, and PFF, they can keep ducking us, but I'm hopeful that one day we can get somebody on from over there, and we might have to mix it up with them because it's blasphemous at this point. I think Hakeem Yan says Lamar is the Keanu Reeves of football. I think that's perfectly said because Keanu Reeves, as big of a superstar as he is, he's as humble as they come, still rides the train. I mean, just keeps it down to earth. And I think Lamar is the exact same way. I love seeing interactions with him and fans and just the joy that that he has on his face. It's like when he had that video of him in Hollywood playing basketball in Dick's Sporting Goods. I mean, it's just hilarious. I mean, I love that stuff. Just acting like a couple of kids out there dunking and acting silly. I absolutely love it. And we'll keep, like Raven 76B more said, we'll keep having LJ's back.
That's right.
Here in Baltimore. What do you think about, I saw this the second time Christopher Shook has brought up the name Malik Harrison and has a lot of confidence in him. Says that he's going to take over for Patrick Queen this season and end up being the 100 plus tackler that we've been hoping for at middle linebacker. He says he takes over for Queen. What do you think about that bold? Because I consider that a bold statement. Because I'm expecting big things from Patrick Queen this year. What do you think about him saying Malik Harrison is going to take over?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to be that bold and agree with that, but I am bullish on Malik Harrison in that I think he is physically unique where he's so big and for his size so mobile. I think he can be a tackling machine. I think at the end of the day, the problem for him getting on the field, staying on the field is third down. Not that it's any better for Patrick Queen, but Patrick has the speed where Malik needs to show that he can hang on those passing plays and not just be a thumper. Like you talked about with Brandon. Brandon's going off the field in passing plays, right? Yes, Bill Seals. You did get a chopped up 50 Cent quote. Wasn't that good? And I'm not going to try and rap it. That's for sure. But I'm glad you picked up on it. But yeah, so Malik Harrison could be something. Look, we've seen this before, Glenn, where we've drafted two guys and Mark Andrews, we took in the third round, or was he a fourth round, third rounder, and we took Hayden Hurst in the first. Same thing with Dixon and happy 36th birthday to Dennis Pitta today. We took Dennis in the fourth and Dixon in the third. And obviously Dennis got the paycheck. So the Ravens have done it before. I wouldn't be, I guess what I would say is I don't think I would be like floored surprised if Malik Harrison came on as the lead guy. I wouldn't be floored by it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would be pretty surprised to see him take over and because to get 100 tackles, you got to completely snatch the snaps away from Patrick Queen. You're not a complimentary guy at that point. You're the guy. So it would surprise me only because I feel like Queen is going to make a huge, gigantic leap this year. He came into it the worst possible year. The worst possible year you could come into the NFL, the least amount of preparation. So I think that he's going to make a big jump. Now I'm hopeful that Malik makes a similar jump, but I don't think he'll have the opportunity that Queen has. And unless Queen plays his way out of it, which I don't expect him to do. So I think that Malik needs Queen to either play his way out of it or get injured in order to get the opportunity to even show what he's got to prove to the coaches he deserves more time. So
let me ask you a question, Glenn. You were Bart Scott guy. Did he make a Pro Bowl when he was with us?
He might have made it as a Jet. I don't think he made it as a Raven.
Because do you think, I know this is crazy, big time stretch, right? But if you have a Ray Lewis type role, very dominant, high volume snaps guy in Patrick Queen, I'm not saying he's Ray Lewis, would never want to put that pressure on him. But then you turn around and then you compliment him with a guy like Bart Scott, who in this scenario that I'm working up in my head would then be a Malik Harrison. Do you think that they can coexist and be ultra productive together? Like, do you think that there's a way that he can be on the field and Malik is still upwards 100 tackles somewhere, even playing next to him?
The only reason I'd say no is because of the fact that everyone is in the nickel. Back when they both played, when Ray and them, there was a lot of base sets. It was a lot of two tight end. It was a lot of two receivers, two backs. Nowadays, everyone's running at least three wide receivers on nearly every play. So you can't have a ton of base sets out there. They said that, I think Wink said they're in the nickel more than, like 80% of the time, nickel or smaller, like 80% of the time. So it's almost impossible to have two big, middle linebackers out there unless it's a guaranteed run position,
Yeah. And then I guess on top of that, if our offense is doing their job, our defense just shouldn't be out there for a ton of snaps.
In theory, exactly. I mean? And also it shouldn't be out there in a ton of run snaps because usually teams are playing catch up against the Ravens. Scrapped Account says B. Bose underrated. Dude has been a stalwart in pass and run protection, is now moving to his college natural position at center. That's another really good one. I think this is a guy, Bradley Bozeman. I mean, he's already been such a fantastic left guard. If he makes the jump that some are expecting going back to the center position, a center position that doesn't have, it doesn't get as much pub, I think, around the league. He could very well be the AFC Pro Bowl representative at center. And the only worry for me then is that he prices himself out of Baltimore and we see another Ryan Jensen situation where you see him taking snaps elsewhere and it's hard to watch because I agree with you. I mean, the guy is big, he's strong, he's motivated, he's in a contract year. I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't be a guy that could end up pricing himself out of Baltimore.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think that's another guy that's a great one. Scrapped account. Nice find there. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Brad because, like you said, he could price himself right out really easily, and I don't think either you or I would be surprised because I think that this is going to be his best year as a player, ratings wise. Like if you look at PFF ratings,
he's always felt like this is the area where he can excel the most. He says he's a beast in that small area. He's powerful, but the good thing is, let's not focus on, I guess, the possibility of him leaving. Let's focus on the impact because this year he can make a huge difference. I think in that, especially like if you look in that 2019 playoff loss to the Titans, it was those 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s that we seemingly got all year long. All year we picked up those 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s. Not in that game. That game we were getting stuffed, smashed at the line of scrimmage, and driven backwards oftentimes, which is something we certainly hadn't seen all year. With that guy at center, we don't, and especially if you stay healthy on either side of him, especially if Ben Cleveland can take over, we won't be seeing that physical push. Like we won't see our guys being physically overpowered. That won't be the case this year with Zeitler, with him, and with Ben. I don't think we'll see an issue where they'll ever be having the line of scrimmage reestablished behind them. Right. It's going to be going forward. Those 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s that we got all year long and we didn't get in the playoffs, that was the difference maker. So if he can be the anchor that picks up those short yardage, big time plays and keeps the defense on the sideline and keeps the opposing defense out there and having to deal with these guys, it could make all the difference in the world. And I think that's where we're going to see that big difference.
Yeah, Glenn, I want to ask you a question here. Some Ravens trivia.
You
just mentioned 3 guys, and I want you to tell me, to the best of your knowledge, and putting in a spot here, where these guys are from. Do you know where Bradley Bozeman is from?
Oh, I gotta imagine the middle of the country. I mean, I think is he from Alabama?
He's native to Alabama, yeah.
Okay.
And then, you know where Big Ben Cleveland is from?
Georgia.
The Sticks in Georgia.
Georgia.
That's right. Now, this cracks me up, man. You talk about some corn-fed, meat and potatoes, offensive lineman. You know where Kevin Zeitler's from? The offensive line factory of the North. Close, North.
Wisconsin,
baby.
Yeah, that's where they all come. I mean, those few schools, they turn them out, man.
Oh, that cracked me up, man. I was laughing when I read that because I was envisioning it. You're absolutely right. I mean, obviously Yanda is a Hall of Famer, but think about 3rd and 1 running behind Bozeman and Cleveland, and even if Ricard's getting in there too. But even if he's not, I mean, if it's a quarterback sneak or something like that. But if you got Bozeman and you got Cleveland, and then on the other side, you go the other way. You go Bozeman and Zeitler. We might have the biggest interior offensive line in the NFL if that is our starting 3. Scary proposition, baby. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, definitely, man.
Now, Nana says, James and Glenn, how do you think the Ravens fans will greet Orlando Brown on week 2 after his statement that no one on earth will touch Mahomes, but he allowed Lamar to get hit plenty? Well, I mean, I don't think he allowed Lamar to get hit. I think if he did allow it, it wasn't, because he wanted it to. I think it's just because the other guys are trying pretty hard too. And actually, I thought he did a pretty good job. But as far as his reaction that he'll get from the fans, I can tell you what I'm going to be doing, Jimbo, because we're going to be in the building. Boo! Boo! I'm still not over it. I'm still bitter. I'm still not happy.
Are you not happy about the fact that it happened, or are you not happy about the way it happened?
The way it happened.
So, like, if he went about this privately with his agent and the GM, and then all of a sudden we heard rumors and then saw the trade, you would be less.
Yeah, I'd be a little. I mean, I still wouldn't be thrilled, but absolutely, I'd be less upset. I think that when you come out and you hurt your trade value, you damage the team's ability to get maximum in return for you. There's no doubt about it. When he said he wasn't a left tackle or a right tackle, he made it clear he would not be playing right tackle for the Ravens. So they had no choice but to move him. And I think that absolutely impacted his trade value. I wasn't thrilled with it. I thought that he whined his way out of Baltimore. I think you could have played your last year and went on and chased your left tackle dreams elsewhere the following year. There's no reason you had to make a big stink about it. And let's be honest, I'm happy with Alejandro Villanueva. I think it's a great move. but I'd be happier if Big O was still here. I mean, I think that that's a fair statement because, he's still ascending. So I would have liked to see him here. I'm going to boo him. I'm going to boo him as loud as I can. As a matter of fact, I may save my voice specifically for that purpose, that I can make sure he hears my individual boos loud enough. That's what I want. I mean, I might paint my chest with a big O and then put a line right through it. No to the Big O. Because I'm
just
not
say
over
no
it.
to the Big O.
I'm pissed. I'm still not happy about it. So I'm going to boo him. I'm going to encourage those around me to boo him as well.
Oh, geez. Oh, I'm nervous. I've never gone to a Ravens game with Glenn, guys. So I'm getting a little nervous right now. I'm getting a little nervous because
your boy gets rowdy at Ravens games. Your boy has a few adult beverages in him, and things get a little rowdy.
Oh gosh, this is gonna be wild. I'll tell you what. But you know what? I can't blame you because of the way it happened. I've said it. Not that they're 1-for-1 comparisons, but like everyone, myself included, ragged on Kevin Durant for leaving and going to Golden State. For me, it wasn't that he left. Is that he was up 3-1, and then he acted like he had to go to a team that he didn't have a chance to beat. You were up 3-1, dude. Like, you weren't getting smashed. It was your fault your team lost.
Well,
like, let's be honest.
His fault that they were up 3-1. Like, it's in a good way.
Right. You're right. You're absolutely right. But to almost discredit his team and to go to that team and say you're not building a good enough team around me when you were up 3-1.
Oh, the team was good enough with him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly. So you compare that to Big O and him saying, look, and that's the thing is the way it happened where he went to Twitter. And then I'm not here to judge anyone in the relationship with their father, but I feel like he kind of hid behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if it was just about that and wasn't about the money, the timing wouldn't have been there and the outbursts wouldn't have been there. The articles wouldn't have been there. Like, I feel like some of it was, I hate saying this, Glenn, but I just got a feeling in my gut that a little bit of it was disingenuous.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it wasn't real, but everything lined up too much. So why did it happen this year, Glenn? Not next year. Like you said, if it was just about the position, because it's about showing tape that you can go get paid as a left tackle, not playing the position, but getting paid as a left tackle. That's what it was about.
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
and he gets there and he goes, oh, I'm so thankful for the Ravens. They took a chance on me. Well, you certainly showed how thankful you were on your way out.
Yeah.
By tanking your trade value and by making everyone know that
you threw a hissy fit.
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. That's what he did. And the fact that he did that to a team that not only, the legacy, the second generation, that's what but he did it to a team that took a chance on him after the single worst combine performance in the history of combines. Now, in hindsight, we look at it and we go, oh, it didn't mean anything. But if you remember at the time, Jimbo,
he was a lock in the first round.
And nobody wanted to touch him after that sloppy performance, except for the Ravens. So I just don't like how he did it. I'm still upset about it. Obviously, just got me all fired up again. Thank you, Nana, for bringing that topic up because, man, I you know what? I got to bring a megaphone. I'm just going to call it the Big O Boo-a-thon because that's all I'm going to be doing. Just boo.
Now, it will be fun to see him and Odafe go at it.
If Odafe beats him and smashes some Pat Mahomes, I'm going to be cheering my head off.
Because I do think that there is – look, Big O, Orlando Brown doesn't struggle with a lot, but I think if there's one thing that he struggles with, it's pure speed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just pure speed because he's big and he's long and he's strong and he gets his paws on you. But if you can bend and you can get under them hands, and he's not the most flight of foot guy.
Yep.
He's a Pro Bowler. Orlando Brown's a really good football player. I'm expecting him to win that battle.
Mm-hmm.
But it will be fun, like you said, if he gets up under and gets around him and gets a hit on Pat, man, how satisfying would that be?
And don't you think the entire front seven is going to be have a little extra juice for him that game? Not that they dislike him. I'm getting kind of fired up at him, but not that they dislike him, but because they – hey, you left us. You didn't want to be here. Now you're going to have to deal with us. Now you're going to have to face what you've been previously. You've been benefited from this defense. Now you're going to have to face it. I think Calais is going to be up for that game. I think Pernell McPhee is going to be up for that game. There's going to be some of them old heads. They're going to be up for this game. And I'd say look out, Big O. I know he's going to be hyped for this game as well, but don't be so sure that no one gets to Pat Mahomes that game.
Yeah, because you know what? Even the best of us, anything that happens like that, it's so hard not to feel slighted. I mean, I would say it's downright impossible, unless you're the same guy that walked on water, not to feel slighted, right? Like, we're just human. You're just going to feel that way. So certainly, I agree with you 100%. That whole team is feeling slighted, whether they say it publicly or privately. I think they certainly are feeling a little slighted about it. Look at Don C. Snack Daddy. He'll get to him. I wouldn't put any money
that would make
on
me
that,
extra happy. The fact that it was Ferguson of all players that beat him. That would be hilarious. But either way, no matter, and also let's not forget, Lamar Jackson does a lot to make offensive linemen look a whole lot better.
Yes.
As good as Pat Mahomes is, nobody makes offensive linemen look better than Lamar Jackson.
No, and that's the thing, is that Tony brought it up, and he was the first one. He planted his flag in the fact that, dang, look at Nana Rave going in.
I like it. Get him,
Wow.
Nana. Get him, Nana.
Wow. I totally get it, and I felt that way, but it was hard for me to hold that back because we have a show here, and I didn't want to
I went after him, Jimbo, and I remember I was kind of alone in the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, I liked that I got more on the bandwagon of boo, Big O.
Yeah, no, you did. You definitely did. But I don't even remember what I was saying.
I don't know, but I agree with Lisa. Senior ain't, I don't think he was thrilled with that. I don't think he'd be thrilled with that, but, who knows? I mean, he did apparently have a big preference to have his kid play left tackle.
Oh,
so maybe,
right.
Maybe
so there we go. That's exactly what I was going to say, is that Tony planted his flag on the fact that he thinks that he is just an average left tackle at best. And that, like you said, he benefited from the system, benefited from Lamar, but he's going to go to a system where they're dropping back 50 times a game. That isn't his game.
Right.
It's just not in the NFL. Maybe it was behind Baker, but I mean, who are you playing against in what are they in the big, what is it? What is Oklahoma in? Jesus whiz. What conference is that?
Big 12?
Big 12, right? They play no defense.
Yeah.
Who are you playing against? And now you're going against guys. I don't think it's going to be a good matchup for him to go against a Bosa 2 times a year. That's not a good one.
Well, if Bosa makes it to both.
Right, but then he's got Chubb and or Von Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got some dogs that he's playing against that I don't think. I think that Tony was a little bit prophetic in his statements, and it was hard for me to agree with him there.
Yeah, and do you think the fans overall boo him, or am I going to be a small minority with who I have around?
I think it's going to be split right down the middle. But you know what, Glenn, you might have to move the needle, man. You're going to have to start recruiting the whole section. Look, we're booing him. Booing him.
I'll make it known as soon as I get to my seat. Guys, can I have your attention for 15 seconds? We're all booing Big O. Enough. That's it. That's all. Actually, 5 seconds. That's all I need is 5 seconds. We're booing this man. But yeah, I can't wait. Oh, we're going to be I hope I have a voice left after, the tailgating we're going to be doing leading up to that point. But yeah, hopefully we have some extra weapons at the pass rush spot. Like Christopher Shook says, let's bring in Justin Houston. Let's bring in some more, some more pass rushers to keep throwing at them, some fresh bodies. Absolutely. Lisa says we have your back, Glenn. All right. I appreciate it. We got the flock. He's going to have my back because I know that, he's a big boy. I don't want to have to deal with Big O by myself. I need some
you know what's going to happen? That big Raven, the
one that flies around, just going to scoop him up.
It's just going to land right on it. Just scoop him up.
Snatch him up.
It's so insane. I'm so excited for you to see it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I've only seen it on TV. Well, actually, you can't really see it when you're there.
Right. No, you can see a ton of it. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, you're going to trip. You're going to trip.
I went to a bunch of games in 18. I went to like 5
but
or 6.
I think it just came out last year. Not last year, the year.
I was going to say it had to have been 19 because there weren't
19.
any fans last year. But I went to a few games in 19. I don't remember. I don't know. I can't wait to see it though. But yeah, I think I want to give some shout outs because
let's do it.
We've forgotten a few times and it always bums me out after we get off.
Falls on me.
Yeah, it's usually Jimbo's fault if you're mad. Christopher Shuck, appreciate you always chiming in and providing a lot of comments and show content for us. Jonathan Washington says he's going to hand out custom shirts on the section. Said Orlando's face crossed out. That's right.
Hey, we might have to make a shirt.
I think we might have to, and just let them know this is unacceptable behavior. Thanks, Billy Seals, for Glenn's vocal lessons.
Let's get it in. Let's see it. Glenn.
Me. Oh man, it's gonna be bad.
Let's hear some practice boos though. Come on.
Boo! I'm gonna get that real Baltimore boo. Boo! Boo, hon. Boo. Oh, I'm a Baltimore boo him up. You know what I mean? I mean, you got to, right? You got to let them hear it. So I appreciate it. Billy. Appreciate your always supporting us. Don C, you hyping up the likes does not go unnoticed. I
not
appreciate
at all.
You,
Same
Don
thing with
C.
Nana Rave, of course.
Tanja Bowman, appreciate you as well. Always showing out and showing support. Lisa Franco, or Lisa Ann, I think is like she likes to be called. Always active. Appreciate you. Absolutely. Let's see. Ravens 76 B More, always in here. Appreciate you as well. Andrew Dolch, I don't think I've seen your name out here, but I hope to see more of it. Appreciate you coming. Scrapped account. Same with you. Thanks for the super chat earlier. Adam78, always in here, always showing love. Let's see. Jonathan Washington Jr., appreciate you. Cam Neal, appreciate you coming out. Anybody I missed, I do apologize. Anyone who just silent observers, thank you. We appreciate you.
Yep.
We love the Ravens flock.
Yeah, and last thing, guys, is that DK he said he's putting out 2 articles this week on our Patreon. So make sure to go check it out. I've said it before, it's $1 a month.
He was here, just so you know, he was here in the beginning. He had to leave for work responsibilities, but or we would be getting DK's words of wisdom as we always get at the end of the show. But unfortunately, work had to take over. But yes, he'll be pumping out 2 articles this week. So he's going to be spoiling the fans, and we always look forward to seeing what he's got on his mind. Fantastic writer that he is. But that's it for us tonight, and we'll be back soon.
See you.